If you've ever looked at Taylor Russell and thought, how does she always look so effortlessly chic? You're not alone. From red carpets to street style, Taylor blends quiet luxury with a modern edge that's redefining minimalism and seemingly rising above the endless social media fashion trend cycle. In this video, we're breaking down her most iconic looks, key wardrobe staples, and how you can recreate her aesthetic without the celebrity price tag. Let's get into the it girl science behind Taylor's style. So without further ado, let's dive in. So to start this video off, I wanted to draw some parallels between Taylor Russell's street style and the iconic Carolyn Bessette Kennedy street style, because I think there's a lot of similarities there. It's very refined, very understated, minimalist, but yet still has this aura of cool, of simplicity, of effortless, of just very alluring. I'm not trying too hard, but yet I still come across super stylish vibe. And I think that's what we're all so attracted to, especially in this social media age of over stylizing. I think a lot of times some of us find ourselves yearning for just more simple, elevated styling versus really intense avant garde styling. The first thing that Taylor Russell does really well is give a vibe of attainable but high quality fashion and styling. None of the items she wears seem too far out of reach. It's giving trench coat, it's giving really great high quality vintage denim, t-shirts, leather jackets, all things that we're very familiar with, very attainable for most of us, whether it be at your local thrift store or any other store you choose to shop at. You're able to find items very similar to the ones that she wears. And I think that's what makes her style so engaging and warm. It doesn't feel too out of this world, avant garde, and distant from the everyday person and what we're able to wear. And I think that's a huge draw and appeal. Up next, we have relaxed fit. And this highly contributes to the vibe and aura that Taylor exudes because her clothes flow with her. They aren't too tight or constricting against her body. They're able to move with her, giving that aura of just effortless chic, almost like you're floating throughout the streets of New York. And I think that adds to the whole cool girl, I'm not trying too hard vibe. Up next, we have subtle styling. And I think this is probably the most important thing that Taylor does to really set herself apart. Because, of course, she is wearing quite minimal, quite basic pieces and items that pretty much any and everyone can own or buy. But it's her subtle styling, whether it be the cuff of a button down or choosing to button up certain buttons within a garment, or just the way she chooses to wrap her trench coat or her coat in general. Those small, subtle styling techniques really make the difference and show a level of intentionality and fashion knowledge that really makes her seem like she's the elevated queen that she comes across as. Last but certainly not least, we have tension and contrast. And I think this is also something that makes her style a little bit more fun and less serious and kind of boring in the way that sometimes minimalist styling can come across. And a lot of times she incorporates differing kind of style ethoses that kind of conflict and contrast with each other. Alison Bornstein does a great job of breaking this down, but essentially she'll have a sporty item like a baseball cap with something a little bit more elevated like a trench coat. And that subtle contrast and tension really makes it a lot more interesting than if it was all kind of that classy elevated vibe of like trench coat, headband, heels. Like that's very kind of monochromatic when it comes to the style ethos of all the items she's wearing. So by adding that subtle tension and contrast, it makes it a lot more interesting and playful. So, to dive even further into Taylor's kind of vibe and styling, I wanted to compare and contrast her style to two icons who are very similar, but yet are somewhat different. And I wanted to visually represent this through the usage of dials. So, kind of like if you were changing your sound quality or audio quality, you have different dials that you can turn up or down to change the vibe and aesthetic. And so the first example is Hailey Bieber. I would say she and Taylor are very similar, except Hailey is a lot more sporty and trendy. I also think in the way that she chooses the sizing, for example, of her clothing, she likes a little bit more of that avant garde kind of huge contrast of a really oversized item. And that's a little bit more extreme and more on the trendy side than I would say Taylor's styling. I would also say that Hailey Bieber really leans into that more Princess Diana sporty aesthetic, where I don't see that as much with Taylor either. But I want to really illuminate the differences and similarities between these two icons because I think it's important when reflecting on our own personal style of what we're drawn to and how these differences and the differences in the dialing of these style ethoses comes across. So, coming up next, we have Zoe Kravitz, and she and Taylor are super, super similar. But I would say that Zoe is a little bit more earthy and a little bit more oversized than relaxed fit. So, I would say with Zoe, she is a lot more kind of in that vibe of boho, earthy, chic, with that same kind of elevated 90s minimalism vibe, but she really likes to drown herself, not as much as the oversized structured garments that you'll see with Hailey, but in these very oversized, like loose, flowy items. And that's a little bit more extreme than I see in Taylor. And also with Zoe, I feel like she really likes that more earthy vibe. She's more carefree. I love both of their styles and I love all these ladies. So it's not to put one above another. But I think it's important, again, to like highlight these subtle differences so we can help to refine our own personal style. So, in conclusion, I hope this video helps you to understand why you're drawn to Taylor Russell's style and the science behind it girl styling. Please, please, please let me know what you thought of today's video. Do you love Taylor's style? Are you more Hailey or Zoe? And let me know if you would like me to analyze anyone else. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around to the end of today's video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!